So the big tax question is this: how do wealthy people keep their money working for them when selling their business, real estate, or other highly appreciated assets without paying hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in tax? What if we, as business and real estate owners who have poured blood, sweat, and tears to growing our wealth, and who didn't hire expensive tax attorneys and CPAs to map out an exit strategy, knew their secrets? Instead of recreating the wheel, why can't we just model the way they deferred 30 to 50% in tax, paid off debt, funded their next business dream, and most importantly, leave a financial legacy to give to the causes we believe in most? What if their secrets weren't complicated at all, and you just need a guide who is a few steps ahead of you? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brett Swarts, and welcome to Capital Gains Tax Solutions. Welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy is the best way to defer tax and grow your wealth. I'm your host, Brett Swarts. Each episode, I'm joined by some of the best financial independents and passive income wealth advisors in the world, where we share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration, so together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. So our guest in today's show is the host of the Sharkpreneur podcast, and recently just started a brand new podcast called Startup Millionaire. He also hosts the Sharkpreneur podcast with a gentleman named Kevin Harrington. You may have seen him on Shark Tank alongside Mark Cuban and a few other really successful people. Our guest here today also is Amazon best-selling author of multiple books, including The Facebook Ninja, Online Marketing Magic, Cutting Edge Marketing Magic, and a few others. But in particular, he's like a marketing genius is what I've gathered so far as I get to know him a little bit more. He was the back-to-back GKIC Dan Kennedy Marketer of the Year nominee. Whoever that guy is, I don't know who he is, but I'm sure he's fantastic. But more than that, he's been featured on NBC News twice, CBS, Forbes, and he just has a whole lot of wisdom to share with us. So I'd like you to welcome, please, Seth Greene.
Thank you so much for having me here, Brett. It is an honor to be on your show.
Thank you, Seth, for being here. Thank you so much for being here. So here we go. Will you give our listeners a little bit about your story and your current focus?
Absolutely. So I started as a college financial planner, and it was my mission to help make the cost of college a lot more affordable for parents and their kids, so that kids didn't graduate with a mountain of debt. And what happened was, when I went to work for a Fortune 500 financial services company. When I got back from getting my securities licenses and got back from training, my branch manager said, "I got a book where all of your clients are going to be in your entire career." I said, "Oh my God, it's amazing. I'm young. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to buy a Ferrari. Give me the book." And he hands me the phone book, literally the yellow pages, for those of you old enough to remember what that is, and said, "They're all in there, Tiger, go get them." And I didn't know any better, so I listened, and I made 300 cold calls a day, every day, interrupting strangers asking for money, until I had the good fortune to find and beg my wife for 30 days to let me borrow more than our mortgage to go hire and work and learn from legendary marketing guru Dan Kennedy, who you mentioned earlier. Doing what I learned from Dan took me from the 6,700th ranked last place advisor at that Fortune 500 company to the top 30 nationwide in 2 years. So that kind of growth is unheard of in financial services. It got me written about in several trade journals and books. My phone started ringing with advisors who said, "How do I do what you did?" And I said, "Dan, what do I do?" And he said, "Start a marketing company and do it for them." And that was almost 13 years ago. We started marketdominationllc.com. Started out as me and one advisor I was willing to let test out what I had created. It worked for him. So then we branched out, and we now have a fabulous group of about 33 team members all over the planet. And we've served thousands of clients, and we've since branched out from originally starting out just in financial services to encompass about 63 different industries. So that is the short version of how I got here.
That's an incredible story. And Dan sounds like an amazing mentor who poured into you, and you took the risk of diving all in and the mortgage, and the business was tough, and made it happen. So what a story. Now, backing up a little bit, before your success as a marketing specialist and educator, and as a financial advisor before that, who was Seth growing up? In other words, what gifts do you feel you were given, and how did those shape how you help others today?
Wow, that's a great question. So I was a magician in my spare time as a hobby, and then ultimately to make money. And I had originally decided to try and learn real magic because I wanted to cast some spells, curses, whatever, on a bully who was making my life miserable in my neighborhood. And my parents got me a deck of tarot cards to distract me from trying to summon Satan, which didn't work. He never showed up. And then I went to go get a book on how to read tarot cards. This is many, many years ago, way before the internet. And I went to go get a book on how to read tarot cards. And it turned out that the store that sold that was a magic store. And I saw the guy behind the counter performing a magic trick. And I said, forget the tarot cards. I want to learn how to do that. So I started, that was my first real hobby that I turned into something that I could make money at. And then that ultimately is where I found Dan Kennedy, was buying a marketing course for magicians put out by somebody else that worked in my magic business. And then when I asked if it would work in my real job many years later, they told me the two words that changed my life and sent me to Dan.
And those two words were?
Dan Kennedy.
So how is marketing like performing a magic trick?
That's a good question. So we make customers, we make leads appear for our clients like magic. So how is it like magic? It has to be surprising and delightful. So if a magician were to say, pick a card, any card, you're like, oh, great, he's going to find my card. So in order to impress someone beyond the just Uncle Earl, looking through the whole deck and going, look, I found your card, you would have to do something different. I'm not a card guy, but I do know a few card tricks, and there always has to be something different so that they don't think it's just another pick a card trick. So it's the same thing in marketing. Our consumers are inundated by, I think it's like 5,000-6,000 messages a day now. So your business has to have a way to stand out, cut through the clutter, get their attention, and ultimately get them to take action. It has to be surprising, has to be delightful, has to give them something unexpected that they want. It has to reframe what they're looking for as something that has some sex appeal behind it. So all of those are principles that apply to both magic and marketing.
So how has being surprising or surprising customers and making them feel delighted changed in the past 3 years? Maybe one or two things that you're saying, yeah, it used to be the way we surprised and delighted customers, but now it's changed.
So it's gotten harder so the principles of marketing never change. The principles behind human behavior, why we do the things we do, those are all the same. What changes is the media that we get to execute those messages in. So obviously with the advent of social media, even 3 years ago, the Facebook advertising platform, for example, wasn't as robust as it is now. There wasn't as much competition as there is now. So it makes it more of a fun marketing challenge to stand out. And then what gets delivered after you get the attention, the like, the share, the click is really important. So I think if anything, we've gone backwards and said, a lot of our clients will say, hey, I want to deliver all my information on the internet. It should all be virtual. It could be a book. It could be a membership site. It could be a course. And we're saying that's great. And you should also physically send it in the mail because you will have a higher retention rate and people will be less likely to cancel or ask for a refund if a big box of stuff shows up on their doorstep on a regular basis, if possible. We've also found that it's really important to do what we call shock and awe. So when someone requests number one, so let's say they request a copy of my book, one of my books. I don't want to just deliver a copy of my book. I'm delivering the book and 27 other things in a giant box that make them go, oh my God, I can't believe you sent me all of this. This is absolutely amazing. I want to do business with you. I want more. So we only send those to the right people. You can't send that to everybody because it could get cost prohibitive. But we have a shock and awe campaign in our own business that costs $200 to send out. And over 82% of the people who get it end up hiring us for a significant marketing contract. So we try and send out as many of those as we can, as long as we can have enough team members available to fulfill on the back end.
So when's my shock and awe campaign box showing up, Seth?
It's actually, we're working on it right now. We just had a conversation with our COO about that.
Thank you so much. And full disclosure, I was just on Seth's podcast just a few weeks ago, and honestly, I'm an entrepreneur who's focused on growing my brand, but I don't have the slightest clue on how to do it. And so I'm looking at Seth's services to help me with just that. So moving on. So you grew up magic. You learned how to be surprising and delightful for folks. You studied financial advising. You made cold calls as a salesman. And then you said, hey, and then you got connected with Dan, and then Dan basically, correct me if I'm wrong, but this he opened you up to what your calling was, and your calling was to not only, was really to help others be surprising and delightful in a way that helps them grow their business. Is that a fair summary of what we just talked about?
Yes. And first I became an excellent marketer in the financial services space. First, it grew my own business as a college financial planner. It grew that practice exponentially. And then that launched a separate marketing firm because so many other financial advisors wanted to do what I did. We set up a done-for-you agency to do it for them. And then other business owners started seeing our marketing, started hearing about it, and said, hey, can you do that in my industry? And we said, absolutely.
So it was organic, and there's something to be said for that, right? Where you actually were in the trenches yourself and you're using the techniques and the strategies yourself, and then you obviously had the rapid success, and then it just naturally folks said, hey, how do I do that? And then it shifted. So by the way, do you still do financial planning, or do you sub that out, or how does that work?
I still own that company. We still help kids get into college at, depending on the college, half the cost. So yes, I still own that company. I don't work in it every single day, obviously, because we have an extensive marketing firm as well. But I am the face of that company. I conduct the public seminars and webinars that educate the public. And then we have an awesome team that fulfills on the back end.
Great. What's the name of that company? What's the website real quick for our listeners?
howtofindmoneyforcollege.com.
Great. Perfect. What's the most rewarding part of helping others grow their business through marketing?
The ripple effect. So as a marketer of my own business, we can touch a lot of people, but we can only touch so many, and we'll have a certain level of impact. But if we're serving, if I'm touching 2 million people, but we're serving 50 people and they're each touching 2 million people, now I'm up to 100 million lives that we're affecting. So one of my favorite examples of that is we've done some work in the regenerative medicine and stem cell space. And we had someone who wrote in and said, my neuropathy was so bad, I was going to kill myself. I couldn't live with the pain anymore. Nothing worked. But then I saw your Facebook ad. I went to the website. I registered for a seminar. I went to the seminar. I got the treatment. You gave me my life back. My pain is gone. My whole life, I'm a different person now. You saved my life. And I said, okay. So the ad we did for our client got him to come to a seminar and got him a treatment that actually provided meaningful relief and kept him from killing himself. I'm not saying all marketing saves lives, but that one did. And that by itself would be why I would get up in the morning.
It seems like that one story, that one life you can change and help makes all the rest of the challenge worth it, right? That's the most rewarding thing, I would imagine, especially for someone with such a serious condition like that. Amazing, amazing. After your success of interviewing, now let's shift a little bit to you have the podcast, you have the second podcast, the Sharkpreneur, and then the Startup Millionaire. But you've done lots of podcasts with lots of entrepreneurs, lots of financial folks. I know you also coach and help CPAs and different financial wealth advisors. What's the single most surprising theme that you've learned over the time period that you didn't think you would learn? Like it's like, oh wow, that's actually surprising. I've interviewed a lot of these people now. This theme that came through, and how has that changed your value proposition for how you help people?
That's man, you are on a fire. These are awesome questions. This is going to be one of my favorite interviews. Thanks. So the most surprising thing I learned was how many professional practices, advisor, CPA, attorney, what have you, don't have a systematic way of keeping in touch with their clients, customers, or patients in such a way that surprises and delights those folks and gets them to refer like crazy. So I built that keep in touch system inside of my own practice, and it worked magically. And then everyone kept saying, wow, how are you getting so many referrals? How come you're so busy? Back when I worked at the Fortune 500 company. And I said, well, because I built this thing that stays in touch with my customers all the time. And it's not email, and it gets them excited about sharing our message, and it works. And people said, hey, will that work for me? So it became one of our services offerings. We call it an internal marketing machine, so that way you don't ever have to ask your clients for referrals. They're literally volunteering, and they know how to talk about you, and they do it on their own without you asking. But a lot of times I find the attorney, the accountant, they think I'm good at what I do. That should be enough. I shouldn't have to market. People should find me, and I shouldn't have to remind my clients how good I am. And I shouldn't have to ask them to talk about it. They should just be out there telling everyone how much they love me. But then I say, do you do that with your own accountant, your own lawyer, your own dentist? And they say, no. And I said, exactly.
Well, maybe if it was their brother or their spouse or their cousin, right? Maybe, but even then it's a stretch, right? You're absolutely right, because people are so busy with everything else that's going on in their life. That's why they hired the professional to take care of that. It doesn't necessarily come up in just natural thoughts unless someone really particular asks. And you're right. If it's not top of mind, or if they're not being encouraged to communicate, I have 5 kids now, and I like to say, I can't remember, I go back to like the high school days. I see people from high school. I'm really sorry, I don't remember your name. I have a hard time keeping the name of my 5 kids. Like, don't take offense, right? So
right.
Let alone a professional that you work with, you see once a year, maybe twice a year. So that makes perfect sense. Okay, so shifting to the tactical now, Seth, will you give us an example of how your service helps others create and preserve more wealth, and in particular, how does that reduce, defer, or eliminate capital gains tax?
Okay, the reduce, defer, eliminate is that's your area of expertise. I'll freely give you that. So I don't know if I can answer that part. However, how it helps build and maintain wealth. Well, let's see, on the financial services side, if instead of spending $500,000 on 4 years at Harvard, you spend $250, you now have $250,000 extra that you could invest. On the marketing side, we grow your business so you can run it. So if your business is doing $1 million and we take it to 2, or you're doing 5 and we take it to 10, or whatever those numbers are, that's a whole lot of money that you didn't have to quote unquote work for to go get, because we went and got it for you. And obviously, I don't know what your margins are, and everybody's business is different, but any dollar increase we can add, obviously there's a percentage that gets to the bottom line and helps grow your nest egg.
Okay, and to that point, though, also, I think I saw a recent webinar where you're training some CPAs on how to offer additional services to increase their value proposition and actually grow their income base. Can you speak on a couple of those? I think one of them you mentioned might have been cost segregation, and a couple others there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have another service that we call it the business owner savings system, that puts on average $280,000 back in the pockets of our business owner clients. If they're doing more than $1 million a year in revenue and they own the building that they're in, we've got a series of services that we have a network of providers for, engineers, accountants, and other folks that can literally I think it encompasses, we talked about cost segregation, workers' comp, insurance, credit card processing, marketing, a few other services, their property taxes. Most business owners are overpaying on their property taxes, and they're depreciating their assets in slower than they could be. So we have a whole separate program that for the business owner, again, we only get paid a percentage of the money we save them, and we don't get paid till the money's back in their pocket. And they can find out, just like Geico, in 15 minutes, answer 9 questions, and we can tell you approximately how much money we can save them. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Every $280,000 back to your bottom line, triple net. What's that pay for? Your house, your college, you name it.
That's compelling. Where do they find that service for what you offer? Is there a website they can go to read more about that if there's a business professional listening to this?
Yes, that would be, if they go to businessownersavingssystem.com/schedule, They can learn more about the service, and then they can schedule that no obligation 15-minute call to see how much money we can save them.
Beautiful. Please share your top 3 wealth secrets that you have learned. It could be personally, it could be through all of these business professionals you work with, financial advisors, or just your personal financial advising history. So what are your top 3 wealth secrets that you have learned?
Sure. Top 3 wealth secrets. So 1 should obviously be make sure to defer or eliminate your capital gains taxes by talking to Brett and his team. Number 2, no problem. Happy to plug. Number 2, I read one sentence in one book that a friend of mine wrote. The friend wrote the book. He had his accounting expert wrote one chapter. There was one sentence in there that cut my tax rate almost in half. And it was the difference between taking your income as W-2 income versus taking some of your dividend, your income as like dividend distributions as a shareholder in your own company. I am not an accountant and don't play one on TV. However, my accountant applying, I had to go through 7 accountants to find one who knew what that meant and knew how to do it. But once they did it, it cut my taxes about in half. So that would be number 2. And then number 3, we do for a lot of our higher net worth clients, they make way too much to put any money in a Roth IRA. However, we came up with a strategy that we call the Mega Roth Ira in my financial services practice, which allows you to put as much money as you want after taxes away and have it come out with the growth tax-free later. So that is a whole nother service that company offers that obviously if you're getting that money tax-free when you couldn't otherwise get it can make a huge difference in your nest egg.
Now, so Seth, when I asked you the question before about deferring, eliminating, and reducing, I guess, capital gains tax, you were shy to mention a few of these, so I'm glad we've been able to dig these out. So we've got a Mega Roth IRA, you've got some cost segregation, we've got a potential strategy for W-2 versus dividend distributions. Those are valuable pieces of information. Same place they would learn about those? Is there a website? Is that the business one that you mentioned before, or what? Where would people learn more about that?
That would be, hang on one second, let me go find it. That would be megarothira.com/Seth.
Excellent. Moving on, what are the biggest mistakes wealth advisors are making when advising their clients? Okay, in other words, what are they missing, whether it be a CPA, financial advisor, commercial real estate syndicator operator, business broker, and what do they need to know about what you do and how to best leverage your service and expertise to grow their business?
Okay, so on the marketing side, we could talk for days about what they're missing. So if we're talking on the wealth protection and appreciation side, I would say they're missing the opportunity to again put close to $300,000 back in their clients' pockets. Their clients are most likely overpaying on their taxes and overpaying if they have high school or college age kids. They're overpaying for their education, and there's ways around that. And then they're probably overpaying or they have underperforming marketing that could be optimized to either save them more money or bring them in more customers or clients at a more attractive price.
Beautiful. Great overview. Last question. How do you stay centered in your values? And most importantly, how do you stay encouraged? Being that you run so many businesses, right, and helping so many people, and also in the context of marketing, which is cutting edge, and although you said there's principles that are consistent, but being surprising and delightful in a ever-increasing noise and speed of the pace of information. So how do you stay, first of all, centered in your values, and then how do you stay encouraged?
Okay, those again, great questions. So how do I stay centered? I am a black belt in Krav Maga, which is the Israeli military's martial art. So that's certainly a physical activity along with weightlifting that helps me stay centered. I meditate and pray every day. That helps me stay centered. I am very, very involved in my 3 children's activities. So that helps as well. Although sometimes, as a dad, you have to remind yourself that it's 12-year-old soccer and not the World Cup, and you should probably calm down just a little bit. And then the second part of the question.
By the way, were you competitive growing up? Seth, hold on. Were you competitive growing up? Did you play soccer or sports?
I did. I played soccer.
Soccer. Okay, and that competitive part, did that translate into
business
your drive today, or
it's part of it, sure. And then how do you ask centered on values, and then
how do you stay encouraged?
Stay encouraged. Thank you. Yep.
All of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot about that one. How do I stay encouraged? So I read probably a book a day or a book every other day. I'm a voracious reader. 80% of those are business books. I am a personal development junkie. I listen to podcasts. I read inspiring stories. I watch Goalcast on YouTube, along with as much inspirational content as I can find. I'm in quite a few mastermind groups where I'm a student in addition to the ones I lead. So I'm always trying to plug in and get in rooms of people smarter than me, more successful than me, so I can keep staying encouraged and inspired to take my game to the next level all the time.
Okay, so that's how you do it. Now, the other question would be the flip side. How do you keep from being discouraged? What are things that you've cut out or you've eliminated over your course of, maturing that you want to share with the listeners here? 20 years?
Sure. How do I avoid being discouraged? I don't watch the television news anymore. I don't listen to the radio. So no TV, no news, no newspapers. The only content I read is curated to be positive or something I absolutely have to know for one of our businesses. And so I've cut out television news. I don't watch much TV. There's maybe one or two sitcoms I watch with my wife. But that's almost.
Which ones do you like?
We like the Goldbergs because it's literally like our family almost growing up. Nice Jewish family in the 80s with a hovering smother. So Goldbergs and Modern Family.
How about The Marvelous Miss Maisel? That's another good one.
My wife watches. My wife is obsessed with that. I watched the first episode or two and just didn't get into it. Like, my wife thinks she's hilarious, and it just didn't do it for me. But I mean, I admire what for sure. So I would say eliminating negative sources of information, negative news. Those are big helps. And stop watching scary movies. I used to watch a lot more of those. Businesses can be scary enough.
Yeah, so no scary movies. Yeah, for sure. Eliminating negative things. No news, not as much TV. Excellent. Any last thoughts you'd like to share with the listeners before we let you go?
I think that your business is your greatest laboratory for becoming more of who you are. It helps you grow you as a person. There's no greater personal development experiment than trying to grow a business. So I think it's for those of your folks out there who are entrepreneurs or who were entrepreneurs, you know what it's like. You know how to hang on for the ride because it's a roller coaster. But there are no lower places and there's no higher places. So if you have anybody listening who's going through one of those valleys right now, I would encourage them to stick with it and hang on. It gets better. And for those of you who are climbing the mountain, I would say, awesome. Congratulations. Keep going. The world needs you.
Amazing. Seth, I want to thank you for sharing your story, your insightful answers, and adding value to our listeners. I want to thank our listeners for another episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Hopefully, Seth shared a few things with you, how to create and preserve more wealth, and maybe how to reduce some of your taxes as well on this show, as well as the marketing piece of communicating and connecting in a surprising and delightful way. I encourage you to reach out to him if you think he can help you with that. And lastly, not having a clear plan is the enemy, whether it be a clear marketing plan or a clear capital gains tax deferral plan. And having a proven strategy is the best way to grow your wealth and grow your business. So thank you again, Seth, for being on the show, and I wish you a great day.
Thanks so much for having me. It was an honor to be here.
You have just listened to another information-packed episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions with Brett Swarts. We hope you enjoyed today's show and found it helpful. Visit capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to access the show notes and to access more resources. Don't forget to leave a review and join us again next time.